Hello everyone, this is Jeffrey Brown with the latest forecast on November 12th, 2019, Tuesday, for North Hollywood and also Southern California, also the West Coast, Southwest, primarily the Southwest U.S. forecast. I'm a member of the American Meteorology Society, Chapter Los Angeles branch. And I want to wish you all a very pleasant day. There's some interesting changes going on in the forecast charts that I wanted to talk to you about. The GFS has been pretty consistent that we're going to have a cold trough drop down the coast beginning next week. However, not a lot of moisture associated with it. But the GFS has pulled the trough a bit further west, actually quite a bit further west than its previous runs, which is more in line with the Euro model. But I can show you the GFS model first. And I'll just show the panels. Basically, the panels pretty much show a trough dropping down somewhere around, I'd say a week from tomorrow. And so we get some cold air, very cold air, and then some snow in northern Arizona and southern Utah. There's a cutoff here, down here, and so on and so forth. But other models in previous runs of the GFS have indicated a cutoff low situation. And even with the infiltration of the GFS F3 model integration, it still does not do well. And I'm talking about the Global Forecasting System model, the GFS. It still does not do well with cutoff lows. That's why I call it the Gringo Forecasting System model, because this is a United States model that us, the Gringos, can't seem to get the cutoff low situation in hand when it comes to anything beyond 144 hours. This is the Canadian model, 500 millibar charge from 12Z today. And you can see that the Canadians have the high moving in, and then they too have a low dropping down, but they cut it off. See, they kind of cut it off, but they put it pretty far south they put it off the coast of northern Baja, which I believe is a bit of an exaggeration. And they throw a lot of heavy rain into the desert southwest. As you can see, they just throw a lot of heavy rain into the desert southwest, just south of Los Angeles. I think this is a little extreme. I think it's a little too far south. So the next model we want to touch base with would be, of course, the European model, which was just released just about 10 minutes ago. And let's take a look at the Northern Hemisphere 12Z European model run at the 500 millibar. We'll use the 500 millibar anomaly chart. The red areas indicate abnormally high pressure. The blue areas indicate abnormally low pressure for the area. The darker the red, the higher the pressure above normal. The darker the blue, the more below normal the pressure is. And as you can see, what the European model does, it indicates a definite shift from a, we're in a meridional, an extremely meridional weather pattern right now. And this is usually indicative of these cold snaps that we're getting over the eastern half of the northeast and over the Great Lakes right now. But this high pressure system that is over us, I'm going to slow this down so you can kind of all see. Let's bring this up to basically today. So that's this morning at 4 a.m. We've got a strong high pressure just to our west. It rapidly weakens, and you can see there is a blocking high over the just north of Alaska and north of Siberia. This is the high that's been bringing the cold air down over the eastern portion of the United States, the Arctic air. This isn't, this is not an ice age. This is not global cooling. This is due to a classic block up in the polar regions, bringing the air. The air goes clockwise in the northern hemisphere around high pressure. It's bringing the cold air down to the Yukon. As you can see, we move this forward to tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. and you can see that we have a little trough move through it, and it creates a little cutoff low to the off the west coast of Baja. Now this cutoff low starts to become an anchor low, and you can see in 120 hours all the models kind of agree with this scenario, and this is where they all begin to diverge, and this is where you have a very unstable ridge over northern California, nosing into southern California, with this cutoff low underneath. Now this is an interesting situation. This ridge is not firmly planted in any stretch of the imagination. As you move forward, the ridge breaks down and moves over the southwest in northern Sonora, Mexico. The cutoff low, or the anchor low, over the Pacific, eastern Pacific, begins to intensify. You get an intensifying short wave to the west, and this is to the west of the Pacific Northwest. And this is where the models pretty much diverge as far as the Gringo forecasting system model and the foreigners. The Canadians and the Europeans tend to disagree with the Gringos. And I'm tending to lean toward the Euro model, quite frankly. You can see here that the anchor low begins to converge with this dropping cold shortwave, and you have a very intense high pressure which is going unstable in the Gulf of Alaska. This is the same culprit that was way up here. If you remember that blocking ridge, that sucker kind of dropped down into the Gulf of Alaska, which kind of makes sense. Now we go to the net, and this is only 5.5 days out. When you go to 6.5 days out, Wednesday the 20th, you can see a very intense cutoff low about 250 miles west of San Francisco, and this only means one thing. It means rain and showers and probably thunderstorms for most definitely the southern half of California and possibly the southern 2/3. If we move again forward further, you can see that there is a strong blocking ridge over Seattle, over the Pacific Northwest, giving them above normal temperatures, probably in the 50s or 60s, probably even near 70 degrees. And Southern California will be in the throes of showers and possibly thunderstorms, because this particular low, if this does happen, pinwheels and weakens but moves directly over Southern California. So that is an interesting, and I'm just going to run this. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is a very similar pattern that we saw in November of 1967, which was pretty much a La Nina year. But a cutoff low came down, and you had a strong high pressure over the Pacific Northwest, over the Gulf of Alaska, and it brought moderate rain and some high winds with locally heavy rain to the Bay Area south of San Jose. But Los Angeles had 9 to 12 inches of rain over a period of 3 or 4 days. So it'll be interesting to see if that does set up. Again, these cutoff lows, weatherman's woes. Again, the GFS models do not and historically have not handled these type of models very well. So, that being said, we'll see, but an interesting change in the weather possibly heading our way. And this is Jeff Brown, wishing you all a wonderful, wonderful week. Take care and goodbye now.